Georgia, thank you so much. Let's dig deeper now with Michael Moore. He's a former U.S. attorney for the Middle District of Georgia. Michael, appreciate you getting up bright and early for us. Appreciate your perspective. So both Travis and Gregory Mcmichael withdrew their guilty pleas last week in this federal trial. Help our viewers understand what exactly happened and what implications that may have on this trial.
Well, I mean, essentially, they put in a plea that appeared to be the main sticking point was where they would spend their time in jail. As you know, they've been convicted and sentenced to life without parole. They would serve that in a state prison. But here, it seemed that the deal was struck that they would spend about 30 years, or at least 30 years, in a federal system. And that didn't seem to be to the judge's satisfaction, which is, of course, her right as the sentencing judge. And so she said, I'm not going to accept that, nor am I going to be bound by this. You can keep your plea in place, but you're letting me now as a judge make the ultimate decision on the terms of the sentence. And so they obviously said that after that, we're going to withdraw and we're just going to go ahead and go to trial. I mean, and if you think about it, you know, what did they have to lose? I mean, if they've already been convicted and sentenced to life without parole in the McMichaels case, and Mr. Bryan, of course, to life in prison in the state system, that they'll appeal those convictions. But here, a 30-year sentence to them essentially meant life in prison too. And so if they're going to spend their time in the state system and then have to serve their federal time, which would typically be the requirement since they were convicted first in the state court, then they decided to move ahead and sort of roll the dice with this trial.
So in the state trial, you recall prosecutors methodically pieced together a timeline of events that led to Ahmaud Arbery's murder. There is additional information, though, that's going to be presented to the jury in this federal case. Walk us through what the federal jury might see that's different from what the state court saw.
This is a different case, really, completely. I mean, the question of the murder is not there anymore. I mean, that's on tape. And state prosecutors made a decision to move forward without trying to get into too much evidence of motivation. They did not look for racial motivation or really present that type of evidence to the jury. This case hinges on whether or not that racial motivation was part of the reason that Mr. Arbery was killed. And so we'll hear things, I'm sure, and we don't know all of this yet because it's not in the public domain, but we know about some texts that are out there that are disgusting and unsafe, comments that were made in the past, and perhaps some things that are, dealing with whether or not there was the Confederate flag on the truck, and we'll hear about that. And again, what the prosecutors are having to do now in the federal case is show that this racial motivation was the motive behind the killing.
And Michael, obviously race played a controversial role in jury selection in the state case. There was a back and forth between the prosecutors and the defense, one defense attorney making very insensitive remarks. And there was pushback over questions about potential jurors' views on race, the judge ultimately allowing the trial to proceed with only one black juror, even vocally lamenting that. Do you expect a similar dynamic in this federal trial?
You know, I understand the judge has sought now a broader jury pool or more people to ask about. It's going to be tough, if you think about it, to find somebody who has not heard about the case, and that's not the standard, but whether or not they form some opinion about the case. And I think that's part of the question here. And were those problems, those racial elements and things in jury selection and how the jury was made up, you know, is that going to be an issue that may cause some problems for the state case on appeal? I don't know. But it's certainly something to think about. Here, I don't know that we'll necessarily have that. I mean, you'll have a jury that's selected from throughout the district. And I expect that the lawyers will spend a great deal of time talking about, you know, your feelings about race, you know, what you may have heard about the case. And I expect you'll probably see a more diverse jury pool. That's not uncommon in federal juries.
We will be watching it closely, and we hope you'll be nearby to lend us your expertise. Michael Moore, thank you so much for the time.
Glad to be with you all.
Well, the man who fatally shot 4 people with an assault-style rifle at a Waffle House in 2018 was sentenced to life in prison without